I've got another update on Flynn. I've got a little bit on Melania and a wonderful report on kids that have been saved. So hang in there, folks. I'll be right back. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and wow, just have several things here for you. The first thing I wanted to share with you is this right here by Dan Scavino. Well, it's actually Maggie Vanderberg. So here it is.
President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people. Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with...
Because nobody will show up.
People with...
Well, it's true. Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right.
We do them outside. We have tremendous crowds and literally on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
economy?
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Every time I watch it, it makes me laugh. Oh, that is just so funny. That he had some really good moments. I watched it again, and it was better the second time. It really was, because I was focusing more on what he was actually saying. And, if you listen to what he's saying, it's so good. There were so many zingers in there. So I really enjoyed watching it the second time even more. But I did notice something. If you watch the Fox news feed of it, you'll notice a few items that, were unusual. Let's say it that way. And the first thing was that it seemed like not every time, but many times when President Trump was speaking on his own, just not when he was talking over Biden or Chris Wallace here, but when he was speaking on his own, they did like a faraway shot where it had both of the candidates. Not all the time, but a lot of times it happened like that. And then when Joe Biden was speaking, it always had him square in the middle of the camera all by himself. I mean, almost always there, which was really unusual when, you were watching it. It just seemed strange that they did that kind of camera angle. And of course, I don't know if you noticed, but of course the Anons noticed that the shirts, both President Trump and Biden had white shirts on. But if you look carefully at the two of them and you compare them side by side, you'll see that it looks like President Trump's shirt is more orange. So I think they had an orange light on him of some kind. It just kind of weird. They do little things like that, it seems like. I don't know what's going on with Fox News, but they're not very friendly anymore, that's for sure. So anyway, I just thought I'd start you off with a little laugh because things are getting intense. And I know they're getting intense. I'm feeling it all across social media. And especially on Facebook, I get a lot of friends that don't quite understand the whole situation, and it stresses them out when they feel like, maybe we're not going to win, and it's hard to get people convinced, and they want to believe what they're watching on TV, and they just haven't learned yet that you can't always rely on what you see on TV because they do a lot of truthification, right? So anyway, I wanted to just share that with you because we do need to keep a perspective on things. And President Trump is out there. He's fighting for us. And when he does things like this, he is revealing just so much. And he's right. Biden, when he has his rallies, if you want to call them that, it's just some people sitting in circles. Whereas with President Trump's, it's huge. Now, I do know that today Hope Hicks tested positive for COVID. So that means it's very possible that President Trump may have to forego some appearances. But I'm not sure I totally understand why. Because, they can test them like pretty quickly. So I don't know if they're having to do a different test or, they talk about quarantining. I don't know. So it could be that maybe he's going to have to sit a few out. But I still think he's way ahead of the game. And we're going to talk more about that at the end. I got something special for you at the end. So stick with me, Anyway, I wanted to show you this because, yes, this university has set up support spaces for students traumatized by the presidential debate. I couldn't believe this is what's going on. You have to pardon me tonight because my mouse, the wheel's not working. Just all of a sudden, it just pooped out. And it's a fairly new mouse. So I'm not sure. I can't figure out I checked all the settings. It's supposed to work, but it's not. So I have to make sure I scroll over to the side here. But Ohio's Case Western Reserve University, the site of last night's presidential debate, has set up dedicated support spaces for students who have been triggered by the tense exchange. For any poor snowflake babies who couldn't handle the nasty orange man telling Joe Biden there's nothing smart about you, CWRU is providing a confidential safe space where they can talk and cry about it. This just gets me that they have to do this kind of stuff. What really scares me is the future. And this guy, let's see if I can get it down here. One of the comments, yeah, here it is. He said, "It's very concerning to think that we will be turning over this country to a bunch of weak-kneed cowards who need a comfort room to cry and discuss the comments of the president. They cry and hug their stuffed teddy bears and comfort puppies while their peers are standing guard around the world. So sad." Boy, I mean, that is true. I spent a little bit of time with a mission group over in France several years ago. I'm not going to talk about how long, but a long time ago. And when I was there, one of the things that I realized, I was not very politically oriented at that time. I realized that they knew so much about politics around the world, and I didn't. And that's why I decided I need to start, teaching myself what's been going on in various countries. But kids over there, they knew so much more. And, they were very well aware of politics. You ask kids here, they don't even know our own country's history, which is why I'm so glad President Trump is going to be starting that 1776 course. That's great. And I think it should be required in all schools. But yeah, I think our kids need to learn a little bit more about not only our own country's politics, but also what's going on around the world. And it's going to be an interesting world after everything, hits the fan. It should be weird. And I wanted to show you this one. I don't know if you heard about this, but I thought this was very eye-opening because here's a hot mic moment. Guess what? Democratic Governor Wolf and Representative Ullman of Pennsylvania call masks political theater for the camera. Here it is.
Oh no. So Wendy, I'm gonna take my mask off when I speak.
I will as well. I'm waiting so that we can do a little political theater.
Okay.
So that it's on camera.
Yeah, they don't even hide it anymore. Crazy world we live in, right? So let's get a little bit of an update here on Flynn, and I sure do miss that wheel on that mouse. But anyway, this is 54 pages long, but it is about, this is not wanting to scroll like I want it to. There we go. Third supplement in support of agreed dismissal. On May 7, 2020, the government moved to dismiss with prejudice the prosecution of General Flynn. Now, remember when it says with prejudice, that is actually a good thing. I mean, it sounds bad, but it's really a good thing because that means they can't try him on this anymore. And until this case is dismissed with prejudice, the government has a continuing obligation to provide to the defense all evidence that is exculpatory of General Flynn. So maybe this is why he's dragging it out. You would like to think that Sullivan is doing this for a good reason. I know he's not, but I try to see the good in people. But it is working out for us because we're getting to see more and more stuff. getting all this exculpatory evidence, establishes misconduct by the government in many capacities that contributed to this wrongful prosecution or otherwise is favorable to the defense. So that's what this document actually contains. The defense has a continuing obligation to make a record that mandates this dismissal, especially in view of this court's unprecedented procedures and positions. Late last night, the government produced yet another tranche of documents. Its fifth production of exculpatory evidence since April of 2020, and its third since filing its massive motion to dismiss. According to the government's production correspondence, the documents include handwritten notes of former Deputy Assistant Director Peter Strzok and former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, and internal text messages between FBI analysts who worked on the Flynn matter. Additional text messages between former DAD, that's the Deputy Assistant Director, Strzok, and Lisa Page. The 41 pages of additional evidence demonstrate his innocence, the absence of any crime, government misconduct in the investigation of General Flynn, and continuing prosecutorial misconduct in the suppression of evidence favorable to the defense in violation of Brady v. Maryland, which is the Brady materials that they have to produce, and this court's Brady order. These documents provide information long known to the agents and others at the highest levels of the Department of Justice and the FBI, information long concealed by the special counsel and FBI. This evidence shows outrageous, deliberate misconduct by FBI and DOJ, playing games with the life of a national hero. It negates multiple essential elements required for the prosecution of a false statement offense and any offense even considered in relationship to Flynn Intel Group's review of open source information regarding Fethullah Gulen and the Muslim Brotherhood. This remarkable new production shows that in August of 2016, the FBI analysts discussed the preference of some agents for a Clinton presidency, a known quantity instead of a wild card like Trump. And they give you the text messages here so you can see them. In messages exchanged on the FBI's link message system in October of 2016, FBI agents exchanged messages about the Crossfire Roadshow, stating that they were interested to see how this all plays out. They knew exactly how bad it was. I'm telling you, man, if this thing ever gets FOIA'd, there are going to be some tough questions asked. Well, there should be, that's for sure. And there's those. Notably, the investigation of General Flynn was first closed by November 8, 2016. The FBI agents write, he said shut down Razor, and so glad they're closing Razor. However, redacted, was silent though, so who knows what he will want. Was that Andy McCabe? And then, General Flynn has a Sixth Amendment right to a public exoneration regarding the proceedings against him, and the American people have a right to know the truth about the nefarious conduct and the people who committed it. The defense objects to any redactions and demands that the government file these documents unredacted on the public record. Wouldn't that be interesting? And so here's another one, more of it. FBI employees noted that the decision to NSL, National Security Letter, which I actually covered in a previous video, finances for Razor bought him time. This shows their recognition that the issuance or request for national security letters for General Flynn's financial information was a ruse to get more time to keep the investigation against him open. The Stalinist tactics mandate immediate dismissal of this case. Analysts recognized by December 5th, 2016, it was not even a logical investigative step to seek General Flynn's financial records at that time, and that this is a nightmare. And then there's more. These are the things. They have them right there. On that same day, analysts discussed NSLs, which National Security Letters, as a pretext to buy time that also increased the risk of leaks. They also noted it was a topic that makes no sense since the argument was made back in August. If we're concerned about sensitivity, leaks might not want to send NSLs that we don't really intend on using. Exactly. That makes no sense. We'd have to read in more people field offices. Again, the argument you guys made to me in August. So all of these are text messages. They're there. And here's more. See, they got all of them right there. FBI employees discussed the January 5th, 2017 briefing of Obama. What's the word on how O's briefing went? Asked one employee, to which the other replied, don't know, but people here are scrambling for info to support certain things, and it's a madhouse. Trump was right, still not put together. Why do we do this to ourselves? What is wrong with these people? Yeah, that's what I'm asking. What's wrong with these people? 5 days later, on January 10th, 2017, FBI analysts knew it was so bad that they all went and purchased professional liability insurance. The same employees worried that the whole thing is pretty ugly. We shall see how things pan out. And the concern when we got it was that there was a big leak at DOJ, and the New York Times, among others, was going to do a piece. Further, the new AG might have some questions. Then, yada, 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 we all get screwed. Exhibit A, emphasis added. So, there's more here. I mean, it's just kind of stunning that these things were there, and they definitely prove that they were just trying to get Flynn. It didn't matter if they were doing things regularly. They definitely did not do them by the book, that's for sure. On January 13, 2017, FBI employees messaged that someone leaked the Flynn calls with Kislyak to the Wall Street Journal. In a response reeking with sarcasm, an FBI employee messaged, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'll resume my duties as chief morale officer and rectify that. Oh, so then it goes on. See, here's more. And if you notice on this one, it says here it's got to be someone on the staff. And it says PDB staff. The PDB is the President Daily Briefing staff or White House seniors. I think that's pretty significant. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with Flynn, but I think it's pretty significant that that's where a leak came from. I hope they caught whoever it was. Newly produced notes of Andrew McCabe show that at 5:15 p.m. on May 10th, 2017, McCabe briefed the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. They were trying very hard to pin something on General Flynn, and that will be Exhibit B, you'll see at the very end. And Flynn opened nothing, closed everything, blackmail theoretically possible, but not the strongest theory. So, you know, what are they doing here? This is like newly produced notes of Peter Strzok show. Strzok met with Bruce Schwartz, Lisa, and George at DOJ on March 28, 2017, where he noted Flynn Intel Group satisfied the registration obligation and no evidence of any willfulness. Nonetheless, Bruce decided to issue subpoenas to Flynn Intel Group and more, and that'll be Exhibits C and D at the end. The new Strzok Page text messages show that Strzok played games with the FBI Sentinel serialization system and entry of 302s. Strzok and Page were pulling talking points from a Lawfare article. We know Lawfare is like Democrat Central. And F and Pamela Brown knows there were 2 phone call memos. Further, these text messages reinforce how zealously Strzok and Page were working to oppose Trump's election and subvert the peaceful transfer of power. And that's Exhibit E. The following are samples of some of the conversations reflected in Exhibit E. So here are some more conversations that they did. I mean, several of them. The government provided copies of the production with all necessary redactions for public dissemination. These documents evidence stunning government misconduct that mandates the immediate dismissal of this wrongful prosecution. The government's redacted production of last evening, September 23, 2020, is attached hereto as Exhibits A through E, and that's, like I said, at the very end. The conclusion is there was no case against General Flynn. There was no crime. The FBI and the prosecutors knew that. This American hero and his entire family have suffered for 4 years from public abuse, slander, libel, and all means of defamation at the hands of the very government he pledged his life to defend. For these reasons, and all those previously briefed, the government's motion to dismiss should now be granted with prejudice instanter, which, like right away, for multiple violations of Brady and the wrongful prosecution of General Flynn when the agents and prosecutors knew there was no crime, knowingly. This hideous abuse of power and travesty of justice has only been exacerbated by the unprecedented and baseless rulings of this court, and it should not continue another day. But it has. It has. And there's who it was. Now, everything from here on out, that was page 12. Everything from here on out, well, you got this. They got to put that in there. And so, down here, so starting on page 14, 13, whatever, this page, you start seeing the thing. See, there's a lot that's redacted here, and we don't know what that is. But then there's a lot in this. I mean, it's page 14 all the way to 54, so lots of pages. Now, on this, they were making fun of Trump, actually, because they were trying to, here they said, however, I think they would have a better chance at influencing Trump, saying that Russia would have a better chance at influencing Trump. I don't know, man. The hooks Russia has into Big T are pretty deep. No. See, they had themselves fooled. They really believed it. I don't know who, they got their information from, but whoever they did, they were wrong. All this financial stuff that's been coming out in the press, Bayrock Group, Obama founded ISIS, that was something that President Trump said, which he was right. And so, I saw that. I haven't watched the clip yet. Just watched the Putin presser, though, announcing war games along the border. Washington Post byline is great. Despite Donald Trump's repeated assertions last night at a rally in Florida and again on this morning in an interview with CNBC, President Obama is not the founder of the Islamic State. Yeah, that's probably not what he said, but he probably did say that he helped it. And he, man, I don't know. I don't know if Obama actually created it, but I do think that he made sure that they flourished. I believe that. So anyway, you can go on through the rest of it, like I said, and it's got the handwritten notes and pretty much everything that was dumped out. So it's really good to see this and go through and look at them because, they called it a road show, and they knew what they were doing. You can't convince me otherwise. And speaking of people who knew, this is the Comey interview, hearing, whatever. Okay, I've only watched half of it, but the half that I saw, Comey's he's doing his best Sergeant Schultz impression. And for those who are younger, he was an officer on Hogan's Heroes, and all he did, I see nothing, I know nothing. And that's pretty much what it was. And it's like, how incompetent were you then? If you didn't know any of this was going on, you were very incompetent, Comey. So, he just keeps wanting to get away from it all. That, he didn't know any of those things. Yeah, well, you know what? There's documents that show that he does. So, I just can't wait until that man is arrested. He needs to be tried for treason. Oh, I can't wait until the arrests start. It's about time. Anyway, I wanted to show you this clip right here because this was actually in between the different questions that have been going on. And I think it was Dick Durbin. I don't know. One of the Democrats had just asked a bunch of questions, and basically the Democrats were ticked off that they had to be part of this because this is just a big waste of time. Nobody's going to watch this. Yeah, nobody's going to watch it. 885,000 views. And that's here on Fox News. How many were there on, C-SPAN or something else? So, you got to think, if that many people wanted to watch it, then I think you guys are misjudging the American people. We wanted to hear this. Lots of us. Well, anyway, here's what, this is what Lindsey Graham said in between the conversation, because I think he makes a really good point here.
The question for me has always been, okay, let's look at all things Trump. In the dossier, they accused Carter Page as having a relationship with Manafort, and that's where he's passing all this information. Carter Page never talked to Manafort. That's things that the court should know, allegations being made. We now know that the dossier was a result, at least in part, of Russian disinformation, that the FBI took Russian disinformation from a political party, paid for by a political party, and got a warrant against an American citizen, and that's pretty stunning. And we got to do something. Somebody needs to go to jail or get fired over that. Now, the question has always been, did the FBI have the same zeal looking at Trump? Let's put it this way. Everything Trump got looked at. People's lives were turned upside down. $25 million was spent, and nobody's ever been charged with colluding with the Russians on the Trump side. Was there any suggestion maybe the other side was involved in trying to create a Russian-Trump problem for political purposes? We know that Christopher Steele was on the payroll of the Democratic Party. We know that he was working for Fusion GPS. We know that his primary subsource was Igor, the Russian spy. If they were willing to do that, would they be willing to do more? We know in July there's an intercept out there from Russian intelligence analysts that the Clinton campaign is concocting a strategy to tie Trump to Russia. All I'm suggesting is, did they look at that? And Director Comey has told me he doesn't remember getting an inquiry from the intelligence community about a September concern about the Clinton campaign trying to change the subject from the server to Trump Russia. He doesn't remember that. So what kind of system do we have? We look at all things Trump all the time, and when we get exculpatory evidence, we keep looking. When we told it's not reliable, we keep using it. And when there's suggestions that the other side may be up to no good, we just ignore it. That's why the Radcliffe information is important to me. I haven't been privately briefed by anybody, but I'm beginning to understand there was a two-tiered system here. When it came to Trump, there were no rules. Plow ahead, ignore everything, lie if you need to, alter documents. When it came to Clinton, seems to be a completely different standard, knowing that the campaign had on its payroll a foreign agent who hired a Russian spy to get dirt on Trump. That is the concern I have, and we can't live in a world where you turn the world upside down against one campaign and give the other campaign pretty much a complete pass regarding Russia.
So, yeah, that was a pretty good speech there. He had another good one a little bit later on. I think Ted Cruz was after this, so he was really good. I don't remember the order, but I think it was him. Anyway, so that was pretty much what I've seen so far in it. I will watch the rest of it just because I want to see what, Comey has to say. It just seems like he's playing it out and he's going to stick to his guns the entire way, that he's totally innocent, St. James here, and he's going to try to get everybody to go, oh, you poor thing. Yeah, well, I'm not buying it. But anyway, I wanted to show you this article because I thought this is kind of interesting, but expected, I guess, because Virginia has now made a law that is trying to force Christian ministries to adopt this government ideology. And it says 3 Christian schools and a Christian network of pregnancy centers are suing Attorney General Mark Herring, and of course he's a Democrat, in order to prevent 2 pro-LGBT laws that force people of faith to adopt a particular government ideology under threat of punishment. The 2 laws purport to prevent discrimination against LGBT people, but in reality they force Christian ministries to choose between violating their sincerely held religious beliefs or paying hefty fines, as much as $100,000 per offense. That's, pretty hefty. The so-called Virginia Values Act, which Governor Ralph Northam signed on Holy Saturday of all days, the day before Easter Sunday, in the middle of a pandemic, compels churches, religious schools, and Christian ministries to hire employees who do not share their stated beliefs on marriage, sexuality, and gender identity. A companion law, HB 1429, requires ministries and others like them to pay for transgender surgery in employee health care plans, a procedure that violates these ministries' convictions. So I wish them the best. I hope that their lawsuit goes through well and they can end up winning it, because this is definitely something they need to stand on. It's not right. And, you send your kids to like a Christian school so they can get away from that kind of garbage. And to turn around and try to do that, that's just not right. It's not. And so anyway, now I know a lot of people say that once churches get that 501c3 nonprofit status, that they're really beholden to the government instead of to God, but I don't agree with that, okay? I think that it's okay for us to use laws like that to help us out, but, they can make a stand, and we do have a religious liberty here. Now, if they decide that if the court would happen to decide that they have to abide by that law, I think it's going to go to the Supreme Court if that's what they decide. But we'll see what happens. Again, President Trump has really been pumping all those judges out there. It's very well possible that they could end up with one of those judges, which I hope they do, because I'm sure that the judge will rule according to the law and the Constitution and not according to activism. All right. I wanted to point this out to you because guess what? Yeah. Philadelphia had these memory sticks that they used to program the voting machines, and they were stolen. Gee, yeah, is that going to cause any problems? Well, they say, no, not going to be a big deal. It's no big deal. So it was a laptop and several memory sticks used to program Philadelphia's voting machines were stolen from a city warehouse in East Falls, officials confirmed Wednesday, setting off a scramble to investigate and to ensure the machines had not been compromised. So, that's interesting. And city officials vowed Wednesday that the theft would not disrupt voting on November 3rd. We are confident, that this incident will not in any way compromise the integrity of the election. But it says here, I like what it says. It says, but behind the scenes, they fretted about how President Donald Trump and his allies might use the news to cast doubt on the integrity of the city's elections in light of false claims. They're not false. And conspiracy theories. They're not conspiracy theories, he cited during Tuesday's presidential election debate. I don't get this. There are documented cases that have gone through the courts. The courts have ruled that there is this kind of fraud going on. But oh no, it's like they're these ostriches sticking their heads in the sand. They don't want to see. But it's true. It's out there. It's happening. What he claims is not a false claim. It's not a conspiracy theory. It is reality. And it really bothers me when, organizations like this put out such lies and they try to peddle that fiction as truth. And people believe them. Okay, well, here's a breaking one. It's like right now, every day I'm sitting here waiting for, what's the scandal of the day? There's always got to be something. Well, the scandal for today is Melania, because this lady who was a former aide of hers has leaked some private conversations to CNN. And here's the actual article. You got to go there to see the things. But yeah, and of course, who does she go to? She goes to CNN. She's got a book out. Oh, are we surprised? Yeah, she's got a book out called Melania and Me. And she was her advisor for a little bit at the very beginning, but she was put out because of some criminal allegation. Now, I don't know what it was. I didn't go looking her up because I just found this before I started recording. So, but her name is Stephanie Winston Wolkoff, and what a slimy person. She recorded the First Lady. Now, this was after she had left the White House. So, she was, I would think Melania was looking at her as a friend and confidant. And so this lady betrayed her. I mean, what? Oh, I cannot fathom these people. I could never do that to a friend, ever. But if you listen to these, it's really interesting. Of course, with Anderson Cooper. And if you listen to these, you listen to what Melania is actually saying. She says like the opposite of what this woman interprets it to be. I mean, it's really like a bizarro world, because what she says that Melania meant is not at all what Melania is saying. Okay? Melania is like, she was really caring about those kids at the border when she went there. And she was talking about how the kids were grateful to be there because they're like, wow, I get a bed and I don't have a bed at home. And they were getting things there that they didn't have at home. And then she was talking about them being trafficked by the coyotes and stuff. And then this lady turns around and says, well, that wasn't real. That wasn't true. And it's like, no, that is the truth. What you're talking about, and of course, Anderson Cooper was helping her, that was bogus. It was so bogus. It is topsy-turvy world. Oh my. It's like that verse in Isaiah, woe to those who call good evil and evil good, because that's pretty much what was going on here. And then here's the second one. This was actually the first one, if you want to hear them in order. This one was the first video or audio part. And, here she was talking, this lady says, Melania doesn't shake in her boots ever, and she tells Donald exactly how she feels. In other words, Melania is her own person. She's not being controlled. She agrees with Donald. And this is what she says. She agrees with President Trump. She supports him. She's his biggest cheerleader. And, she's right in there. And they talk like she's this crazy cult person, that she's caught up in the cult of Donald Trump, that people look at her and they say, oh, you poor thing, you have to put up with him. And it's like, no, what? He even asked at one point, I don't forget which video it was in, but at one point he asked if she actually likes him. They're married. Do you think they like each other? Of course they do. It's insanity when you read through, when you listen to this. Also, when you're listening, pay very close attention, because often they cut it off in awkward places. And I'm wondering if she didn't go on to say something that kind of contradicted their narrative. So they clipped it right off there, because they like to do that. So anyway, I'll leave the link to this down below so you can listen to those. It's kind of disgusting, but that's the new scandal for today. What's it going to be tomorrow? I don't know. It's just getting almost funny because it's so bad. Well, Newsmax did this interview with the guy who is the head of the Proud Boys. And I got to tell you, folks, he's going to be suing Joe Biden, CNN, and anybody who's calling them white supremacists and Nazis, because they're not going to put up with it, and it's not true. See, the thing is, the Southern Poverty Law Center, in case you don't know about them, I'm sure most of you do by now, but the Southern Poverty Law Center is an organization that puts out names of who they decide are hate groups, okay? And the left takes their word as gospel. Now, they're the ones that are helping Facebook determine what things are true and false. And they can't even figure it out for themselves. There was like one time they took the family, the Family Association or something like that. It was a very nice association that did family-oriented things and promoted family-oriented activities and legislation and stuff. And what do? Make them into a hate group. Well, probably because they were pro-life. I think that was the issue on that. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, that's what they did. So this is a video with him. I'll just play just the very beginning of it, and then you can watch the whole thing if you want to.
Yeah, I can respond. I'm suing them. I'm suing Joe Biden. I'm suing CNN. all of these reporters that call this multiracial patriotic group white supremacists and Nazis, as far as I'm concerned, that's the new N-word. You call me a Nazi, that's as bad as any other racial epithet. Those people killed 6 million Jews, and to call us that is a deep-seated insult. So we're not tolerating it anymore. I already sued the SPLC for calling the Proud Boys a hate group, and now we're going to start getting litigious with everyone. It's the only way to fight back because the justice system doesn't do it. You know, we got 2 guys in jail right now for fighting Antifa. When Antifa started the fight, it was mutual combat.
Yeah, so he goes on there, but, you know, they've already sued the Southern Poverty Law Center, but they haven't learned. And the only way they're going to learn is by keep hitting them with the lawsuits, I guess. But, you know, that takes money. And so anyway, I just thought that was very interesting. And they are multiracial. That's the thing that's so funny about it. But the reason they call them white supremacists is because the left looks at the term white with a capital W, meaning anybody who opposes them essentially is a white supremacist. So they even think Pepe's a white supremacist, even though he's green and all the Anons are green. So had somebody the other day that was on the boards and was talking about that being one color or the other. And it's like, it doesn't matter. Here, we're all green. That's just what it is. So anyway, I'll leave the link to this down below. You can watch the whole thing. And then I wanted to remind you of this in case you don't know what happened today. Kayleigh McEnany, when she was doing her briefing, Fox's John Roberts got his nose out of joint or something and kept going off on this. Why won't the president, denounce these white supremacy things? And it's like, he wouldn't shut up about it. He just kept going and going. Well, I like this by Techno Fog because he says, putting the White House press briefing into context, and this was John Roberts in 2019. And essentially he said, we saw the president come out and strongly condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. Here it is.
It was significant, though, that we saw the president come out and strongly condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. His daughter Ivanka had a tweet out yesterday in which she strongly condemned white supremacy, saying that hate in all forms has to be stopped. We were wondering if the president was going to echo those sentiments today, and indeed he did. You heard your...
So why was he doing that today? I mean, he really got his nose out of joint. He was being a big pain in the butt. So then I want to tell you this. Guess what? U.S. Marshals announces rescue of more than 1,300 missing children, including victims of sex trafficking, since President Trump has been the president. And I think that's huge that we have those numbers. Down here, actually, they give a really good graphic. This would be a great one for you to save and to share because this is very important. If you look at this, the kids that were missing and recovered has gone up significantly. And this is 375 as of, the 24th of September. There's still months to go. And they've had 375 so far. So I think that's wonderful. The FBI, I guess, is sitting on their butts or twiddling their thumbs or doing something. And, the U.S. Marshals are going in and doing the job. So good for them. Now, I wanted to show you this. Oh, I liked what he said up here. He says, 375 children were rescued this year, including victims of child trafficking. What was that the Q movement was saying? Yeah, see, they tell us that we're crazy and it's a conspiracy theory. And it's like, no, reality right here. Okay, listen to the numbers that he gives, though.
But as of, for example, in calendar year 2020, there are currently about 285,000 that have been reported missing this year, and we still have a bit of the year to go. So somewhere between 350 and 400,000 is probably a pretty good number if you want to get sort of a ballpark number for missing children in the United States. I'll tell you.
So,
yeah, go
ahead. No, finish your thought. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you mentioned as a lead-in that we have recovered as an agency about 1,300 over the last 5 fiscal years, which one just ended, of course. In FY 2020, we recovered 375 kids. And I think one of the reasons that you were interested in talking was because of the big operation we had in northern Georgia around the city of Atlanta called Operation Not Forgotten, which was a fantastic effort by a lot of people to go and recover about 26 missing children, and then to confirm that 13 others were in fact safe. And there are others going on around the country as we speak.
This is what's so disturbing. In Ohio, just around 20% of the children rescued were tied to human trafficking. They were found in cities across the Buckeye State, including Cleveland, Akron, Columbus, and also the arrests of people for alleged crimes related to sex trafficking, parental kidnapping, registered sex offenders, drugs and weapons possession. Is this what you're seeing in these stories? It's such heartache. It is so heartbreaking, these stories. And these children, were they in, who are these, where do these children come from?
Well, they come from families like yours and mine. These are, by and large, runaways who may or may not have some issue that they're trying to fight. Their age group is typically anywhere from 6 to 17. So obviously the younger children are more taken from their families than running away from their families. For example, in Operation Not Forgotten, the youngest child was 3 years old. But you mentioned Northern Ohio. You know, we have great people throughout the United States Marshal Service doing all kinds of good work. And in Northern Ohio, under the leadership of Marshal Elliott and his chief deputy up there, Marshal Deserto, they've just done a fantastic job of kind of pulling things together.
Yeah, they have. And you've done a great job, too. You really have. I'm so sorry we're running out of time. I just can't believe that.
I was amazed at the end there. She was talking about how she was stunned about the child sex trafficking. But we've known it, right? We've known it all along. And it's getting out there. What used to be a conspiracy theory is no longer that. It's truth. It's reality. And so this is really good. If you want to share this, probably the best way of sharing it, I mean, you can share the whole article, but it's also, if you click here, you can watch it on YouTube. And that is sometimes a better way to share, like if you have Facebook or Twitter or something, because it tends to go across a little bit better with the people. They'll have more of a tendency to watch it than maybe click on an article to read. But I still think, I still think we're right on the mark, and it's all starting to come out and come together. So hang in there, folks. I really do think things are in the works. And, we are coming up to a 3-year delta for the very first posts. So could be interesting. Wouldn't that be great if that very first post comes true 3 years later? I want that one to happen. Anyway, I wanted to share this with you. This is the last thing here. Our data from the Duluth rally shows that President Trump is still bringing in tons of new voters. Look at this. 60% of attendees were not Republican. 60%. That's huge. 20.9% were Democrat. 17.2% did not vote in 2016. 8.4% have not voted in the last 4 elections. Thank you, Minnesota. Things are turning. Things are happening. Really. I mean, you cannot deny when you see statistics like that. That's huge. That is just huge. So share that, take a screenshot of it, share it around. I think it's really important for people to know that. I just was surprised when I first saw it. Actually, I saw somebody else saying it, and it was like, do you have a source for that? Because that sounds kind of suspicious to me. But no, this is coming from the RNC. So I know that when they do these rallies, they usually have people tell, what they are, if they're Republican or what. So 20.9% were Democrat. Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. And the big thing that he's tapping here is a lot of these people that didn't even vote. And I think that's going to be a huge part of it, because we've had it. We've had our fill. We've watched the Democrats do their stupidity. And I know that the Democrats thought that if they timed that, virus perfectly, that it would end up being, the problem, the thing that would just take Trump down at the election. And they misjudged, because what happened was their draconian rules and regulations ticked us all off. And, people have lost their jobs. People have lost their livelihoods. Not just jobs, they've lost their businesses. I mean, their careers. It's just amazing what's been going on. And if you would just take all the Democrat states that have done these really bad orders, if you take them out of the mix and you look at the other people, then, you really haven't had that many that have died, other than the ones that died in those states. And, honestly, you remember the numbers the U.S. Marshal gave? Well, guess what? Twice as many kids will go missing this year as we had people die from COVID. That is stunning. So where's the news on that, huh? Well, at least Fox News covered it, right? Well, the original video ended there, but since I didn't get it edited and it's going to go up tomorrow morning as a premiere, so hi everybody in the live chat. I wanted to include this because this is an excellent video. You really need to watch this. This is Mary Flynn O'Neill. I mean, she's General Flynn's youngest sister. And I think in the order of the kids, she was second from the last. There was another boy after her, but General Flynn was just the next one up above her. I think that's what she said. Anyway, you really need to listen to this because, the first part of it, maybe the first half of it, they're talking about the Flynn situation and also about digital soldiers and everything. So it was really good. And then they launch into this part about, her involvement with Child Protective Services, because her daughter was mixed up with this guy. I guess she married him, and you just got to hear the story because it's horrible what happened to him. And you look back and you think, were they being targeted even then? The Flynn family. You got to wonder. So they went through an awful lot. And this daughter had a set of twins, and they were just babies, like 8 months old, and the CPS wanted to take them, and the story is just heart-wrenching. So you really need to watch, especially the end of this. But anyway, the whole thing is really a good interview, and this was a channel that I gave a shout-out to before, and so Northwest Liberty News, so they have 19.3K subscribers. I think we need to give them more because this interview, excellently done. Okay. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. And then I wanted to share this because I was talking about it before and I found the transcript of it. And you can see here when she's down here where the questions start. And this was John. And, he says, Kayleigh, if I could start off, I'd like to ask you for a definitive and declarative statement without ambiguity or deflection as the person who speaks for the president. I mean, really, this was just so scripted. You can just tell from the way it's, put out there. Does the president denounce white supremacism and groups that espouse it in all their forms? Yeah. And so she basically says, this was answered, and she gave the examples, and so she goes back and she reads these things, and then but just to clear it up this morning, can you, naming it, make a declarative statement that you denounce, that the president denounces it? Why in the world are they not asking Joe Biden to denounce Antifa and Black Lives Matter and their violence? Oh, but no, we don't want to do that. We want to go after the president. Well, anyway, so she said, I just did. The president has denounced this repeatedly. You read a bunch of quotes from the past. Well, yes, That's because everything that's happened in the past is in the past. So even if she said a quote from him this morning, it still would have been in the past. So it was such a stupid, stupid thing. Plus, there's that video of him actually saying that he knows the president said that. So I don't know why he was in this. I don't understand. And I know a lot of people saying, well, maybe he's the John Roberts that's listed on the Epstein logs. I'm going to tell you again, guys, the Epstein log page that says John Roberts is a fake. Okay, it's not real. When you go to the original documents, the original pages as they were released officially in the beginning, it's not there. Okay, guys? Somebody wrote that up just to put it out there. And then there's this picture circulating that's supposedly him getting on a boat with Epstein. Okay, again, not true. Guys, we've got enough truth that we don't need to deal with those kinds of things. It's not true, okay? It takes a picture, it puts two pictures together that are not necessarily from the same, that are not connected. But they put them in there and then they try to extrapolate. And it's just not true, guys. Be careful. Pick and choose. There's a lot of disinformation out there. And a lot of misinformation. And that seems to be misinformation right now. But anyway, so then, she says the president was asked this. You're contriving a storyline and a narrative. No, I'm not. I'm just asking you to put this to rest. She already did. And she said, I just did. I read you all of the quotes. See, this is why I could never be in this job. I could not be the press secretary. It would just drive me nuts. As a teacher, there's the old saying that there's no such thing as a stupid question. I'm telling you, there is. Okay? There really are stupid questions. And these were stupid questions because she had already answered him and they didn't like the answer. So, yeah. Can you do it currently? See, he just kept on. You read me past quotes. She said, I'll put them in an email. And then she goes to this Paula, and I assume Paula's with CNN because she did the same thing. She just said the same question. So Kayleigh, can you right now denounce white supremacy and the groups that espouse it? See, the problem is here, folks, what they're trying to get them to do is denounce people, especially like Q and everything like that. Because in their minds, anyone who disagrees with them, actually it's Black liberation theology. Anybody who disagrees with that, they are just racist. They're white supremacists, obviously. Doesn't matter what color their skin is, but they're still white supremacists. So, yeah, and it's just so ironic that like a day before or, a couple days before the debate, President Trump had just declared the KKK as, a terrorist group, a hate group. And yet, no, they don't want to look at that. Anyway, so I thought I'd leave you that. Sometimes transcripts are pretty interesting to read. Then, in case you haven't seen this, of course, President Trump is now at Walter Reed, and this is the memorandum from, back up there. And by the way, I got my mouse working. I don't know, I had rebooted, and that's when it went out, and then I rebooted again, and it worked. So, who knows? This computer's been acting really weird. Such is life. It's 2020. I guess anything works, right? Maybe we can uninstall 2020 and reinstall it and it'll fix it. But anyway, going to be a lot of good stuff that happens between now and the end, I'm sure. But this is from Sean P. Connolly, who is the physician to the president. And he says, I release the following information with the permission of President Donald J. Trump and First Lady Melania Trump. This evening, I received confirmation that both President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump have tested positive for the SARS-CoV virus. The President and First Lady are both well at this time, and they plan to remain at home within the White House during their convalescence. Okay, now that was the night that it happened. Okay, well, let's see. October 1st. Okay, that was October 1st when he put that out. So now they have changed the plans because they probably figured it would be better to put him, at Walter Reed just in case. And, things can happen. And I guess now they have him on remdesivir. So he does have what he needs. And I'm expecting him to do well. I don't know about Melania. They didn't mention anything about bringing her, so it could be that she just doesn't have any symptoms or very, very mild symptoms. I think they said that he had a cough and a little bit of congestion, so that might be why they started the remdesivir. I don't know. And it was very odd. They listed, the other thing I saw, they were listing the medication that they had him on, and it had like vitamin D and zinc. But they didn't have hydroxychloroquine on there, which I thought was odd. But maybe because they were going to start the remdesivir, so that's why they didn't use the hydroxychloroquine. I don't know. Some people are saying that this is just going to open up the door for him to be able to say, see, our treatments work. So I think that probably will happen, but it's interesting. And so I heard also that Biden campaign had decided to take down all the negative ads against Trump and everything. So anyway, the White House medical team and I will maintain a vigilant watch, and I appreciate the support provided by some of our country's greatest medical professionals and institutions. Rest assured, I expect the president to continue carrying out his duties without disruption while recovering, and I will keep you updated on any future developments. And he has already tweeted, so everything is good. Good with that. All right, and I wanted to show you this because while I was poking around on the White House website, I came across this because it's, he always has to announce intent to appoint certain individuals. Well, look who's top of the list. Tom Fitton. Look at that. He wants to appoint him to be a member of the District of Columbia Commission on Judicial Disabilities and Tenure. That could be interesting. Wow. Congrats, Tom. That's great. And then Larry Elder, I thought this was interesting too, to be a member of the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys. I tell you, Larry Elder would be great for that. He really would. He has such a good, solid mind, a lot like Thomas Sowell. I see those two very similar because their mentality and how they look at things, very practical. And I really like listening to both of them. I don't know these other two, so I guess, but they're going to be for the Holocaust Memorial Council. So, interesting. But it's sometimes interesting to find out, who he is nominating and appointing. And I just was looking through, and guess what I found? So, this is a win that we had because we've had some really good legal wins lately. You haven't heard them on the news, but we've been having them. So on this one, it was the 11th Circuit Court overturns Democrat attempts to steal Georgia. This is the 6th legal win for GOP and election integrity this week. And it has here, it just was, the Democrats wanted to extend the postmark on the ballots. And they said, nope. Court says they have to be postmarked by, on November 3rd. And if not, then poof. See, I just don't get it, though, because, if you know something is due, like on the 3rd, so then you get it in the mail earlier. It's just, you give them a deadline, and if you tell them that that's when it's due, that's when it's due. And if you keep stretching it out, I'm telling you, it doesn't work out well. You end up having to do it. I used to be the facilitator of an orientation class for the American Christian Fiction Writers critique group. And I started out when I wanted to give everybody the opportunity to put in the little lessons. They were real short. They were kind of silly little things, but it was to help find out that if they had trouble working our email loops and stuff that we had going on. And I had a lot of people had to help troubleshoot. Some of them were older and some of them just were not very techy. So I tried to help them through that. And that was my purpose. But I found out that if I didn't set a hard and fast deadline, some people strung it out. The orientation was like 3 or 4 days, and they would string it out sometimes 5 days, 7 days, 10 days. I had one lady that all through the entire month, instead of sending her lessons in all at once, 3 days, they had to send in these lessons. She strung it out the entire month. She'd send like one every so often. It tied up my entire month. So it was really rude to me for her to do that. Plus, with my chronic fatigue syndrome, I would get really, really tired at the end. It was a stress on me. So that was one of the things I learned early. And I set a hard and fast rule. And it was just like, yeah, if I have to make exceptions, I will. Because there were some times when things just didn't work out. And one lady, her mother died. And, things like that. I certainly understood and I would work with them. But when you're talking about something like this, make a hard and fast rule and stick with it. And there's absolutely no reason why you can't have the ballots in there by November 3rd. They should actually arrive by November 3rd. But anyway, so I thought I would show this to you because I thought this was really great. Another win. And we've got yet another win here because guess what? Michigan's governor's virus powers upended with court ruling. Yes, Michiganders, you're free. Well, not totally free, I'm sure, but you will have a lot of those regulations lifted, and that's a great thing. So now if y'all can just get the actual numbers of people that died in nursing homes, and if you don't know about that, you should watch the Louder with Crowder. They did a live stream on the 2nd in the morning. It's about a half an hour long or so. But if you go there, he talks about that issue because they're not reporting all of the nursing homes. So you don't know if people died at other nursing homes, but it was not counted as a nursing home death. So that's why their nursing home numbers look so low. And so it would be really nice to find out what the real numbers were. But anyway, there's that. And then you've got this one that is from the Hal Turner radio show. And he says that a member of Mueller's prosecution team has flipped for Durham. That would be a game changer, wouldn't it? Yeah, the revelation comes on the heels of the release last week of records showing several members of the special counsel's office wiped their SCO-issued cell phones clean on one or more occasions. Yeah, so covert intel, I guess, is his source. Reports claim that members of the special counsel's office sought and received transcripts and or recordings of telephone calls, text messages, and emails between persons in the United States and other countries, including governments, from the vast data information stored by the U.S. National Security Agency. And then down here it says, those same covert intel sources say that at least one member of the SCO had telephone contact with Hillary Clinton on numerous occasions, with John Podesta, Hillary's campaign manager, and Gina Haspel, director of CIA, with George Soros, and with Jacob Rothschild. So there you go. That's that's what he's claiming. We'll see how that turns out. I don't know really who his covert intel source is, but I hope that's true, because if it is true, that would be a huge game changer. And I gotta kind of think that probably somebody has flipped. Just the sheer numbers, somebody is going to want to save their own butt or at least get lesser charges. And they're willing to turn on those upper. That's the problem when you work with criminals. Criminals will turn on each other. So I kind of think that's probably true. And then there's this one. Now, this is out of Business Insider Australia. I couldn't find the one for, the U.S., but this is the scandal of the day. I think we're going to start calling it that, because this is the one. They supposedly have this new book, and it says that Sean Hannity privately called Trump bats and crazy. And if you were hearing what I'm hearing, you'd be vaping too. And I mean, it's just, yeah. I'm really thinking that Sean Hannity did not say these things. So I guess the name, it's a Brian Stelter book. That's right. Yeah, Brian Stelter wrote in Hoax, Donald Trump, Fox News, and the Dangerous Distortion of Truth. Oh, I should do that. No, wait, it's Brian Stelter. Hoax, Donald Trump, Fox News, and the dangerous distortion of truth. I don't do it as good as Mark Dice, but there you go. Oh, gosh. So, yeah, it's a Stelter book. I remember, I did these. I read them earlier today, and I thought, well, that's a good one. I need to put that in. And then the last one, I'm not going to tell you the name of the video, but I think you need to go watch it. It's a song, and it's pretty funny. Okay? I always like to end with something funny, and so in this case, that's what I'm doing here, folks. And you need to watch this one. I'll leave the link down below, and it's just the Joe Biden you-know-what song, and it's just funny. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and for stopping by in the chat especially. I always like hanging out with you guys. So I'll see y'all later.